All right, welcome back to Daybreak. We are at the tail end of the discussion. We were talking about the politics of the country over the weekend, where we have some people championing for Ruto and others championing against him. We had gotten to Senator Moses Kajwang. I don't know what to make of all this discussion, because we have people from the same party now disagreeing on what should happen. But of course, there are a few members of parliament from the opposition side, your party, ODM, now also adding their voices. Say, for instance, your Secretary General Edwin Sifuna says that they'll not spare any option to ensure that they separate the Deputy President from resources. One wonders, what's the agenda in all this?
You know, Sam, when my friend Irungu Kang'ata was speaking, he was very watermelon. He ought to have told us whether he's a Tanga-Tanga, Kieleweke, Kielewetanga, or Tangawizi. During the break, he was saying you must take a position in politics.
But how important is that in a country that probably needs moderation?
Because it likes going back to ideological convictions. What is the ideological conviction? The unity and the sense of togetherness that came after the handshake, immediately after the handshake, not necessarily now. Does he believe in it? And also the fight against corruption. Does he believe in it? We have a situation where the president is sitting and chairing a cabinet whose members have recorded statements with the DCI on issues to do with corruption. 3-4 years ago, at the State of the Nation address, the president asked members of his cabinet to step aside, not on the basis of recorded statements, but on the basis that EACC had opened investigations on them. Now, I would believe that we have learned some lessons 3-4 years down the line, that when a member of the cabinet gets to that point and everyone is speaking loudly, including the president, about the rot being in his cabinet, that he would take certain actions. You know, Sam, the problem is that we think that the solution to corruption is through the judicial process. That takes long. We are still finding Anglo-leasing cases in court. We are still finding golden bag cases in court. There is another option that is open to the president, and that is administrative.
But Senator,
there is another option.
Even as just for responsibility, recording a statement at the DCA does not incriminate you. You might be a witness.
It does not. There is that principle of innocence until guilt is proven. But go back to Chapter 6 and tell me what Chapter 6 says. Chapter 6 says that a state officer must conduct himself in a certain way. A state officer must bring honor to the office that he holds. Absolutely. Now, I don't know whether that dishonor is only on the day when someone is convicted. But let me tell you, there are 3 options: judicial, there's administrative options, and there is political options. My conviction is that the president needs to exercise his administrative powers to ensure that anyone with a whiff of corruption is outside the cabinet and is not making decisions on a day-to-day basis. We have said this on the part of governors. You find a governor has been taken to court over loss of billions of shillings, over death and murder and rape and all sorts of things, and is still in office. His continued stay in office will definitely interfere with the investigations. But on the political solution, on the fight against corruption, that is why you've got provisions for removal of persons who have been elected. There's a provision for removal of members of parliament. It's called recall. There's a provision for removal of governors. It is called impeachment. And we have exercised it. In fact, the last impeachment was on his brother, the late gentleman, Gachagua. We have processed about 5 impeachment motions against governors in this country. The fact is, the deputy president cannot be sacked. I've seen a headline saying that MPs demand the sacking of the deputy president. Let us be honest. The president cannot sack his deputy. Number 2, the DPP, the DCI and EACC seem very reluctant to commence any investigations and prosecutions on the deputy president. So probably the judicial process might not arise.
Situations sort of directing towards an implication on the side of the president, the deputy president?
Oh yes, there are those that are in the public domain and there are those that are being whispered.
Now I'm talking about evidence-based.
No, I'm not an investigator, but you've got the land issues around Langata Road Primary School, my old school. You've got the land issues in Eldoret. You've got several other issues. So I'm saying the DCI and DPP could take that judicial route. But ultimately, we as a political class, if you're tired of corruption, what do? Do we toss it back to the DPP and DCI? We've got a tool in the Constitution, and that tool is impeachment or a process for removal from office. MCAs have exercised it on the part of governors. Why wouldn't members of parliament be bold enough to accept that conversation? But finally, we must agree as a country and take an ideological position. If you're going to proceed with corruption every day, every single day that we wake up, even this weekend there was another one about GDC. You look at the newspapers today, there are further corruption claims against governors and national government.
All right.
If you're not going to deal with this issue, whether it is going to, whether it's Gachagua to be the next president or Leramo Lekina to be the next president, that is a different matter. But let's deal, deal with corruption without blinders. Let's deal with corruption without bringing in tribes.
So, Mheshimiwa Gachagua, you'll have the final word. And they have drawn out what the problem is, but how do you make sure that you focus on the problem and not the deputy president, whether he has a challenge or not, so that eventually have a solution?
Actually, Sam, that is actually the problem. This thing is a political thing. And you know, yesterday there was a meeting in Katanga where Senator Kangata was. And the guy who said he is having the Stop Ruto movement was a key speaker. So it's just a charity. It's a continuation of a scheme to stop the deputy president. And why you find what my friend here, the senator, is saying, we need to prosecute corruption. It will not be done in churches, in funerals, in press conferences. It's hard evidence. You take it to the DCI.
So why is the president and the DP singing different songs when it comes to corruption?
The president is saying we continue. Deputy president is saying we continue, but we do it properly. And you don't prosecute people by shouting in funerals and in press conferences. You take hard evidence. The success of the DPP and the DCI will not be judged by the number of press conferences, by being praised by politicians. It will be judged by the number of convictions in a court of law. If anybody has charges against the deputy president, don't try somebody. You cannot be an accuser, a prosecutor, a judge, and an executor. Those politicians who were shouting in the Katanga yesterday, there were 18 of them. If all of them could turn up at Karura as 18 MPs and give statements, they will be analyzed. If there are charges that can sustain the test of law, he will be taken to court. What I want to say to what is happening is this, and why you find some of us are saying this handshake, we appreciate it and we accept it. But the minute the Stop Ruto movement came in, and Joho went to Western and said that he has instructions from Baba to stop Ruto at any cost, we saw a political motive. When the Senator Osiaya, called Orengo, has brought an impeachment motion against the deputy president, he says he's going to bring, and we are urging him, bring it on. So what we are saying is this. The issue here is people came to Central Kenya yesterday. People who were previously abusing Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. Today they are telling us Uhuru is a very good man, but Ruto is bad. They were there.
So do you think
and we are not fools. People are not fools, my dear.
Do you think the lunch date between the DP and the
that is the deputy president and the president are one and the same. And the way Kangata is saying that you are either with Ruto or with your Uhuru, I don't agree with that. When I went to vote myself and my people in Madeira, I found the picture of Uhuru Kenyatta and his name. Next to it was that of William Ruto. I put a tick for both of them. I belong to the two because they are one and the same.
Okay, so do you think that lunch date would have quelled things?
No, not necessarily. You see what is happening. And let me tell you, even if the president keeps on saying, let's cool things down, let's not talk politics, politics have already started. Politics are two-way. Either you support a candidate or you want to stop one. Both are political process. When people have said that we want to stop deputy president has supporters. And he is a popular man. He has millions of people behind him. Granted.
Let me just say this.
Let me finish.
Unfortunately,
I did not interrupt you when you were doing it. Let me finish.
I'll share
the last
one
one.
minute with you.
The last one. I'm saying the minute.
No, there are more here.
The minute you start saying you are going to stop somebody, that somebody also has supporters. What you expect them to stay at home?
Okay.
This is a politics.
Let me tell you.
And I'm saying corruption is there.
T-shirts coming back up
for corruption.
So
let the people who have evidence.
When you cross talk, nobody hears.
Let me tell you, when those who have evidence against the deputy president, let them do what President Kenyatta said. walk to Kiambu Road and record statements and give evidence.
Okay, all right.
And
Thank
then
you. Thank you,
he'll
Mr.
be
Gachagua.
judged according to the evidence that you have provided. Shouting in funerals, shouting where, and if you'll check the numbers that were in Gatanga yesterday. In central Kenya, there are only 7 voices that fight the deputy president. 1 in Meru, 1 in Nyeri, 1 in Kiambu, 1 in this place called where? I don't know. Actually, they are not there. Another one is not even. Another one is not even elected. To a point that they are so few, they are looking for backup from ODM to come to Central Kenya to back them up.
Mheshimiwa Gachagua, you made your point. And
You understand? They are looking for backup from ODM
thanks,
to come and assist them in Central Kenya.
Thanks, Mheshimiwa Gachagua. Let's take a look at some of the feedback you've been sending us on SMS as well as on Twitter. What do you have? Samson Cherargei, a senator for Nandi, he didn't appear today, but he says that following the discussion, the agenda of handshake politics is now clear to destroy Jubilee. We shall not allow that.
You should have come here and said that.
ODM's signature is confusion and violence.
You should have come here and said that.
Well, the truth is.
Let's get a tweet.
All right, let's take a look at a tweet. Steve, you say 1 year on, we're still talking about handshake. We're yet to see benefits of the handshake. How long will they talk about the handshake?
Another tweet now from who? This is Aaron Kiprotich. That happens to be an extremely wrong school of thought. Mr. MP, what do we have to show for 50+ years of politicians holding key positions in government? Nothing but biased development and equal allocation of funds. I think he's responding to the point that he said we need politicians who have a feedback mechanism.
Arthur, you say morning Sam. On that bringing water and electricity to our people vibe, ask them why we have to have the same problems since independence. These were the same promises our grandfathers and mothers were given. #daybreak, which is true.
So nothing seems to change despite the change in years. Tito Mwenda, sometimes we have to desist from malice and double standards. Why is Ruto the only target? What has Orengo done to ensure that already under investigation CSs vacate office, not to speak of the governors and then Auditor General's reports? Okay.
No, that makes sense. Because what Orengo is saying, that we as politicians, we have a duty and we've got certain powers. It is not enough for Gachagua to refer people to DCI when we have a tool and an instrument in the Constitution for dealing with presidents, deputy presidents, governors, and any other state officer. That then needs to come back to us. If you are tired of it, let's take action.
But I think we need, let me just say this. We need discipline in this country.
No, for me, I would want a handshake of every key politician. It's an issue of excluding Ruto, excluding anyone. To me, I don't support such kind of situation.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Me, I'm for peace and love. You know, peace and love.
No, Senator.